ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልን የተከበራችሁ አድማጮቻችን እንደምንላችኋል። የሸገር ኤፍኤም 102.1 ራዲዮ ነው። የለዛ ፕሮግራም የዕለተ ማክሰኞ የምሳ ሰዓት የሙዚቃ ግብዣችንን የጀመርነው ባደመጣችሁት አፍሪካን ሬጌ ፌቨር በተሰኘው ስራ ነው። ዛሬ ይህንን ሙዚቃ የመጋበዛችን ምክንያት አለ። የዛሬው እንግዳችን ሙዚቃ የአፍሪካን ሙዚቃና ባህል ትውፊት ከካሪቢያንና ከሰሜን አሜሪካ ሙዚቃዎች ጋር በማዋሃድ በተለይ በሬጌ አፍሮቢት ሙዚቃዎች ያቀርባል። ከነ ስቲቪ ወንደር፣ ፒተር ጋብርኤል፣ ጆን ሌጀንድ፣ ቦኖ ከነዚህ ሰዎች ከታላላቅ ሙዚቀኞች ጋር በመሆን መድረክ ተጋርቷል። በሙዚቃ ስራዎቹ ታላላቅ የሚባሉ ሽልማቶችን በእጩነትም በመሸለምም አግኝቷል። የምድሪቷ ታላቅ ሽልማት በሙዚቃ ኢንዱስትሪ የሚባለው የግራሚ አዋርድን 3 ጊዜ በእጩነት ቀርቦበታል። እንደ ሬጌ ድምፃዊነቱ ሰላምን፣ የሰው ልጆችን የእርስ በርስ ግንኙነት፣ ፍቅርን ሰብኳል። በተለይ ለእናት አህጉሩ አፍሪካ ብዙ ተቀኝቷል። ይህ ጋናዊ አርቲስት ድምፃዊ ብቻ አይደለም፣ የመልካም ስም አምባሳደርም ነው። የዩኤንኢፒ የተባበሩት መንግስታት የአካባቢ ፕሮግራም የመልካም ስም አምባሳደርነቱን በመጠቀም ለአካባቢ ጥበቃ ይሟገታል፣ ድምፅ ይሆናል። በሙዚቃ ስራዎቹን መልእክቱን ያጋራል። የተባበሩት መንግስታት ሌላኛው ክፍል የሆነው የክሊን ኩኪንግ ፕሮጀክትም እንደነ ተዋናይት ጁሊያ ሮበርትስ እንደነ ሼፍ ጆሴ አንድሪያስ ከነሱ ጋር በመሆን የመልካም ስምም አምባሳደርነቱን ይጋራል። ይህ ጋናዊ ድምፃዊ ሮኪ ዳውኒ ዛሬ እዚህ ሸገር ኤፍኤም 102.1 ስቱዲዮ ይገኛል። ከሱ ጋር የዛሬውን የምሳ ሰዓት የሙዚቃ ግብዣዎቻችንን የሱ ሙዚቃ ስራዎች እያስደመጥን ከሱም ጋር አንዳንድ ጉዳዮችን እያወራን እየተጨዋወትን አብረን እንቆያለን። Welcome home, brother.
Thank you very much.
For most of the as a reggae artist, this is your promised land.
Yes. This is home for every reggae artist, every person of color, every African. Because Ethiopia represents Africa, and Ethiopia also is the place where a lot of our founding fathers came and crafted the vision for our continent. So for me, coming here is almost stepping on sacred grounds, not even in relation to reggae music, but also as an African, it's a pilgrimage for everybody to step here and connect with our brothers and sisters here. So I'm glad to be home.
Back in the days, I think it's been like 13 years ago, you mentioned Ethiopia on your song.
Yes.
African Reggae Fever.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, African Reggae Fever is a song that to some extent goes through the history of Africa and also the power of music as a tool for transformation of the continent. And I use reggae just because I'm a reggae artist, so I express my worldview in the form of reggae music. But what I was actually referring to was also the culture of Africa, the future of Africa, the connection of Africa to the diaspora. So I said from Accra down to Lagos to Addis Ababa. It is the common man's time now to make it. Common man meaning every African. But Ghana, I see Ghana as the western gate of the continent. And then Nigeria is one of the most populous countries. So when we talk about Africa, we talk of Lagos. And then when we talk of the spiritual capital of Africa to Addis Ababa. So it's for me mentioning the trinity of African cities that for me represent a totality of what the true essence of being African is. So that's what I express in that song.
By the way, what brings you here? Is it your first experience? I mean,
No.
Okay.
This is my second visit. The first visit was in 2018. I came with a group of religious leaders from various faiths. So it was an interfaith journey to the African Union, and also we took the opportunity to also travel around Ethiopia. So I was in Lalibela, Shashamani, and we spent a lot of time here in Addis, and we also traveled across the country. So for me, that was like my first immersion into the culture of Ethiopia. And so this trip right now is actually I'm also the United Nations Goodwill Ambassador for Environment for the continent of Africa. So I am here as part of the AMSEN conference, which is a convergence of all of the environment ministers of Africa who are converging here to discuss issues that are very important to the continent when it comes to environment. So I'm here in my capacity as UN Goodwill Ambassador for Environment to help deliberations and also to help really be able to communicate whatever the outcomes are to the general public.
If we talk about the African reggae fever,
Yes.
it's better to listen to it because
Yes.
I love the message on it.
Yes.
You wrote the lyrics by yourself? Or?
Yes, I wrote the lyrics, and
Wow.
I think that the lyrics too are very critical too right now about the need for a unified African identity. Because at a time when we can see that the continent we are suffering from our blessings, by which I mean that Africa is blessed with different languages, different tribes, different cultures, different nations. But right now, there's so much division that is going on. And the cost of those division is also the cost of peace and unity of our people. And we can see, if Ethiopia is going through those challenges, those challenges are all around Africa. So the song is about finding the peace that brings us together, finding that commonality that unify us as a people, and also upholding peace as the ultimate, destination for all our people. So that's what the song is all about.
You just use a music sample of the Joseph Shabalala's band, Ladysmith's Black Mamba.
Yes.
It's a national anthem of South Africa. Why?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because the opening is Nkosi Sikalele, Africa. God bless Africa. So for me to start a song that was about empowerment of Africa and also bringing harmony to Africa and also championing the feeling of what it is to be African, I felt that using, a prayer was very important, and I felt the way Ladysmith Black Mamba delivered it was very prayerful. So we used a sample of that with their blessings for the opening of there.
Most of your songs talks about Africa.
Yes.
The one we heard before, African Reggae Fever, African Till I Die with Keiko, African The Future with Morgan Heritage, African Thriller, etc. Any special reason for that?
This is a continent that is blessed. It was the first continent, the first to see the light of God. Even archaeologists have found the oldest remains of humanity on this continent. This continent also holds some of the density of even human DNA. Nowhere else holds that density. This is the source of humanity. And we who are born here are privileged and honored to be from this land. So that's why for me, protection of our land, elevation of who we are as a people, and also fighting for harmony and unification of our people is very important to me. So that's why in my music, everywhere I go, Africa does not leave my lips, because Africa is humanity. So fighting for Africa is also fighting for
Humanity.
the future of humanity.
Let me ask you this question. Maybe it's not the appropriate way of asking you, but I have to do it. Most African singers, after they make money, after they become rich, they live their luxurious life outside Africa. Do you have any opinion on this? They don't invest, most of them. They don't go back to Africa. They don't invest. They don't educate their peoples. They don't build schools, hospitals. Why is that?
It's very hard to make a pronunciation as to artists and what their pathways are, or what their vision are, or what their financial situation is, or how they have, what kind of legacy they have to leave. But one thing I know is, in terms of myself, that the most important legacy you can leave is how you utilize that platform of music to impact your community and also to empower your people. And sometimes empowering your people might not even come in the form of, let's say, material. It can be in terms of your commitment to issues that have to do with the continent. Right now, I feel that even something that is even much more bigger is how we protect the land that we have, which the continent that we have, because the continent that we have is under siege from everywhere. First of all, the environment, and even right now, being here, we're fighting in terms of, plastic issues that are seriously impacting our environment, the destruction of our water bodies everywhere, even in my country, in Ghana. So many of our water are polluted by mining, where mercury is poured into like rivers that are providing, drinking water for people. Trees are being cut everywhere. And I feel that to be able to inspire our people to recognize the wealth of the land and the wealth and the responsibility that we have, we shouldn't be a country that somebody can designate as an impoverished country when we are blessed with all these riches. So I feel that an artist transforming their platform to inspire our people to recognize the wealth and the power that we have, so that we utilize that energy to aspire to our greater self, is one of the most important legacies you can leave. And I believe that those, for me, if artists aspire to that, then it leads to even the schools that we'll build or other material interventions that you can do. But first of all, it's about committing to your people, and that's what's most important.
What made you decide to pursue your career as a reggae star? Why reggae?
Reggae was actually a product of my intention to be a musician who utilized my music to say something about the world, say something about the things I see, and also to express the aspirations of my people. My people meaning my people in Ghana, my people on the continent, Black people, and also all of humanity. So when I was born in a military barracks in Ghana, and as a young kid who wanted to do music, I was like inspired by, first of all, the traditional music of my I come from a chief's house too. My father's line is for a chief's house, so we grew up with the traditions. But the traditional music, apart from inspiring me, I also wanted to gravitate towards a musical art form that was already, making headways and talking on behalf of, people struggling people around the world who needed a mouthpiece. And reggae music was already a musical form. Reggae and Afrobeat of Fela Kuti, Bob Marley, Burning Spear, Peter Tosh, all of these artists were doing a lot to bring attention to black people. So reggae became a big attraction for me because of the content of the message and also the spiritual aspect of reggae music, because reggae music also pointed its light to Africa, being proud of its light to Ethiopia, its light to His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, the founding father of Africa, modern Africa as we know, the architect of the Union of Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, all of these leaders that were instrumental in seeking in seeking the betterment of people of color. So it became an attractive music to a young artist whose intention was to utilize his voice for social and global transformation.
What skills you learned that will help in your career?
You say what?
What skills you learned
through
your career? I mean, as a musician.
I think the skills, first of all, is the ability to listen. Because being a musician is about communication. So if you're able to learn how to listen, then it also gives you an insight as to how to really connect and communicate with people. A sense of discipline to learn your craft. And I think that sense of discipline applies to everybody in every vocation or every work that you do. If you're disciplined and you focus, if it's guitar that you're learning, you learn to play your guitar, you need some rhythmic instrument to really help you be able to compose and all of that. So you have to focus and dedicate to something. And then I think the ability to also, a sense of humility in not letting the trappings of fame also kind of overcome you, because you need people to help you, in terms of moving you along the way. So you have to also be worthy in terms of appreciating people, and that comes with the sense of humility. And then I think a skill that I feel is primary is kind of an unwavering conviction of what your mission is as a musician. You have to have that deep within yourself. And I think that is what will be the compass that drives you and ensures your longevity.
Do you think singers are more louder than politicians, leaders, policymakers? Do you think your voice can be listened than these guys and make a change?
Well, for me, I would not compare. I will deal with both of it in isolation. Even when we look at, Judeo-Christianity, King David, before he was called to be the king of Israel, was first of all a musician. He was a musician that was so good at what he did that God listened to him, and even Saul, during times of turmoil, called David to use music to calm him. But then David aspired and transformed that to become a political leader. So the thing is that musicians have an ability to communicate if they utilize the medium of music in a righteous way. By a righteous way, I mean that you don't let your ego overtake your gift. You utilize it in a way to truthfully bring people together. And if you do that, I feel that your voice travels very far. Look at artists like Bob Marley. and the impact that he was able to do with his music. It's beyond the works of so many people who also strived in that same space to bring Pan-Africanism to the world. And that's not to say that politicians don't have a voice. They have a voice too, and they are good at what they do. But I feel that musicians appeal to the heart and soul of people. And I think that offers a certain level of divinity to their craft if they are humble enough to recognize that gift.
When is which award is the most prestigious for you as an artist? You were nominated
For
3 times for a
Yes.
Grammy Award.
I have always said that, in Ghana, most people have asked me that in terms of what I always thought about awards. I've never been an artist that has wanted to do music for the sake of awards. I believe that awards are a product of your hard work. And sometimes even in the area of music that I do, when your commitment is more in terms of elevation of conscious music, a lot of times you're not even in the realm of the area where you receive a lot of awards, So I'll say that the most important award for me personally has been my still being relevant, and still having people listen to the message of what my music carries, and the opportunity to constantly be able to also articulate it to audiences. I feel that lasts beyond every award. But I appreciate and I am honored that I have been nominated for 3 Grammy Awards, because it's also an inspiration to a lot of up-and-coming musicians, especially in my country and also across the continent, to strive and work hard for excellence and never give up. And when you do that, it's the product of what you do. Eventually you achieve them along the way.
Rocky,
Yes.
what's your favorite childhood memories as an African child?
My favorite childhood memories was actually my grandmother. So I was born in the capital,
Accra.
but it's a military barracks in a town called Tema, close to Accra. And then my grandmother lived in the northern part of the country. So when I was, it was time for me to go to secondary school. We call it secondary school, which is like college. I went to college in the northern region. So every time my father would send me and my brother to, first of all, we'll go to where my grandmother lived there. We'll go and live with my grandmother before school started. So one amazing thing was that my grandmother sang every time she cooked. So she will be singing and dancing, cutting stuff to the kitchen, cooking, moving and I remember that it was some of the most memorable times for me, because she'll be making music while she's cooking. And that image really, kind of stayed with me for a long time, because it was kind of a source of happiness and joy for her, melding the ability of making food for the family, singing, and then also dancing, all within one space. So her kitchen was always like, for me, the stage to just observe this woman just really just make magic. And that was actually an inspiration that has stayed with me for a long time, and a memory too that has always been very key to me, especially now that I'm also an artist, to find the joy in what I do every day.
What is the most hardest part of a musician?
The hardest part of being a musician, I think, for me, especially, was in terms of the struggle of dealing with, a creativity that once you create, you have to adapt it to a certain genre. Whether it's reggae music, whether it's Afrobeat, or whether, because when in the process of creativity and creation of music, for me, it's more inspirational. So it comes to you as pure, unfiltered, unclassified songs and melodies that I distill from whether meditation, whether visiting a sacred place, whether being in a place where people are dancing, or whether in my lonely hours in the morning and all of that, all of these melodies come to me. But then when you finally write it and put it out, you have to adapt it in a way that the world can be able to relate to it. Usually for me, that is the hardest part, because I don't write music as a reggae musician or as an Afrobeat. I just do music.
You don't want to be categorized.
I don't want to be categorized, and that's how, even in terms of my music, when anybody who listens to my music can see that my music is multi-genre.
But you look like a reggae artist. You have a dread,
but
the way you dress up,
but I've seen
the way you
but you've seen all. This is all African too. Our traditional, you see it in our. So this is also my expression of being a modern African who's influenced too by so many different things, and expressing my personal identity too. So you can see, I grew up in a military barracks, so although I'm wearing some of this stuff, you can still see some of the trimmings.
Can see the fatigue,
some of the aspects of it, because that's how I grew up, so all of those elements. So I think that it's all a matter of how the perception, putting yourself to adapt to the perception of the outside world. And I feel that sometimes that is the challenge, because you want to express the freedom of that creativity and the source of your creativity. And sometimes you struggle with it when you have to adapt it to suit a certain genre.
This is the hardest one. What is the sweetest one? Which one is the sweetest part of it? I mean, as a reggae, as a musician, this is the hardest part?
Yes.
And tell us the sweetest part.
The sweetest part is being on stage. And there's always a moment, and I always talk about this moment, where you are and the audience are all one, where there is no time and space, there's no me and you. There is just the now and the presence. And I always call it the God moment, where you feel the Spirit of God moving through everybody, you yourself, and you recognize that you're also just a conduit of the divine will. And it's a space that, as you're on stage and you're performing, you get into. And when it's over, you're also outside of it, and you are also trying to figure out what happened. So you also are an observer to that miracle of that connection. And for me, that is the sweetest part. And sometimes it happens on stage. Certain concerts it happens. Certain concerts you struggle and it never happens. And certain concerts it's like a bolt of lightning. You don't know when it comes. But when it comes, it's the sweetest thing.
How you want to be remembered? You live, then you pass. You go to another world. How you want to be remembered?
As somebody who utilized his gifts to honor humanity, appreciate life, and also defend God everywhere.
Thank you so much. We've just run out of time. We have only 3 minutes. So within this 3 minutes time, I'm going to play Africa the Future, which is a very... I love the message. You just did this with Morgan Heritage.
Yes, it's on their current album.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
You know, I've known Morgan Heritage for a long time. We've been contemporaries. We were nominated together for when my album Branches of the Same Tree was nominated, which Morgan ended up winning the first Grammys.
Yeah.
So we've been contemporaries for a long time and good friends and supporting each other. So one day they hit me up and they're like, we're working on this song for our new album, and we all think that your voice should be on this album. It's a song that is about unity and talking about Africa, the future of Africa. I heard the track. I was like, this is a great song, So, this is to project the unity of not only Africa, continental Africa, but also Africa in the diaspora, and the importance of, all of us being, pieces of the same, parts of the same circle, and trying to express that in music. For me, it's something that is needed in this time and age that we're in, when our continent needs that unity, our continent needs that harmony, our continent needs messages that re-emphasize our shared destiny and commonality as a people, and also a message too that shows the youth that outside of the unity of our continent, nothing else matters. So this is something that we have to hold together. This is something that we have to protect, and the peace and oneness of our people is the greatest gift that God has given us on this incredibly sacred land we called home, which is Africa. So this song for me was a special one to collaborate with my brothers.
Hope this is your second time. It won't be your last time.
Yes.
You'll be here.
Yes.
And any plan to perform here?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, Ethiopia, it's I'll say the cornerstone of Africa, and even when it comes to Christianity, Africans are looking outside for Christianity, whilst Christianity in its wholesomeness you can find here. This is a place where our people were never conquered. Our people preserved their history, and we also have a history of connection, of lineage, of kings that date all the way back to the time of the biblical times. We also have texts, the Kebra-Nagast, which are authentically from sources, unique sources, and not diluted sources that are all African. So for me, every person of African descent needs to pass through the doorways of Ethiopia, needs to come here to experience Africa at its, what Africa is all about. And so my journey and my trips here is not a matter of one time, two time, it's going to be a continuing, relationship. And concerts, I'm looking forward to coming to do, a real concert here, so that I can be able to connect with the people, I can be able to engage with the people, and also get to eat some great, Ethiopian food, as I always like, and drink some good honey wine. And have a great time too, being here. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay blessed.
God bless us all.
Thank you so much.
Leza Radio Show.